Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Houston Sports Talk back into the video today, and today we're going to recap today's games in the NFL, as there were 14 games today in the NFL in this Week 1 opening Sunday. Yes, you had the Kansas City Chiefs lose to the Detroit Lions Thursday night, and then you have the New York Jets playing the Buffalo Bills on Monday Night Football, but there were 14 games today. You had 8 games in the early game slate, and then you had 5 in the late afternoon games, and then you had Sunday Night Football, which was very boring to watch because the Cowboys kicked the Giants' butt between the Cowboys and the Giants. So 14 games today on Sunday, and this was fun to see football back, and there were some really good games, and let's get into it. Starting off with the Cleveland Browns and the Cincinnati Bengals. The Cleveland Browns surprisingly beat the Cincinnati Bengals 24-3. I actually had the Cleveland Browns winning this game, but I did not have the Bengals losing this game that bad. I think I had the Browns winning this game 29-23. And the Bengals only scored 3 points in this ball game. The Browns won 24-3. Deshaun Watson 16 for 29 with 154 passing yards and 1 passing touchdown. Also throws an interception. He also had 5 carries for 45 rushing yards and 1 rushing touchdown, while Nick Chubb had 18 carries for 106 rushing yards. For the Cincinnati Bengals, Joe Burrow, what a bad performance. 14 completions for 31 passing yards. 31 passing attempts and only 82 passing yards. Only had 36 passing yards in the first half. Bad performance by Joe Burrow. Then the Jaguars in the Indianapolis Colts, another divisional matchup. Trevor Lawrence with a great performance. Anthony Richardson with a great NFL debut. And Jaguars get to win 31-21. Anthony Richardson was 24 for 37 with 223 passing yards and 1 passing touchdown, with 10 carries and 40 rushing yards and 1 rushing touchdown. Besides Anthony Richardson, though, this run game was terrible. Besides Anthony Richardson running today for the Colts had handed the ball off 16 times and had 25 rushing yards. Michael Pittman Jr. had a great game today, though. 8 receptions, 97 receiving yards, and 1 receiving touchdown, while Trevor Lawrence threw 24 for 32 and 241 passing yards with 2 passing touchdowns, while Travis Etienne had 18 carries for 77 rushing yards and 1 rushing touchdown. And it really does look like Trevor Lawrence has a new favorite target, and his name is Calvin Ridley with 8 receptions, 101 receiving yards, and 1 receiving touchdown. Christian Kirk only had 1 reception. I think Christian Kirk is going to get a lot of less targets now that Calvin Ridley is on the Jaguars. All right, so Commanders versus the Cardinals. This was a closer game than I thought it would be. I had the Commanders winning this game 33-9, and the Commanders only win this one 20-16. The Cardinals almost won their first game of the season. I know that sounds weird. The Cardinals. It's Week 1. But if you look everywhere, almost everybody has the Cardinals winning 0 games this year, and they almost stole the first game. How embarrassing would that look for all the people that predicted, the Cardinals to lose all 17 games this season, and then they win Week 1? I mean, they probably would have been bad the rest of the year, but it still would have been embarrassing for all the people that said that they go 0-17, including me. I said they'd go 0-17, and they almost beat the Washington Commanders today 20-16. I mean, the Commanders came back because the Commanders were down in this ballgame 16-10, and the Commanders came back and won. Sam Howell threw 19 for 31 with 202 passing yards and 1 passing touchdown, while Brian Robinson had 19 carries for 59 rushing yards, and he also had 1 reception for 7 receiving yards and 1 receiving touchdown. While Terry McLaurin was a little quiet in this game with 2 receptions and 31 receiving yards, while Curtis Samuel had 5 receptions for 54 receiving yards. How about Joshua Dobbs, the new starter for Arizona? 31 for 30 with 132 passing yards, while James Conner had a good day with 14 carries and 62 rushing yards. And their leader in receiving yards was Rondell Moore, 33 receiving yards. The NFL debut for the number 1 overall draft pick, Bryce Young, went okay today. The Panthers do lose 24-10. Bryce Young throws 20 for 38 with 146 passing yards and 1 passing touchdown. And you see Bryce Young also gets 17 rushing yards, and he threw a touchdown pass to Hayden Hurst. And Hurst also had 41 receiving yards in this ball game. And for the Falcons, Desmond Ridder, not the best day, but they were dominant in the run game today. 15 completions and 18 attempts for Desmond Ridder. I mean, he wasn't throwing it a lot, but he was completing it when he was throwing it. 115 passing yards and 1 passing touchdown. Tyler Algier with a great game for the Falcons. He was a draft pick last year, and the duo of him and Bijan Robinson in the run game should be hard for defenses to cover. He had 15 carries for 75 rushing yards and 2 rushing touchdowns, while Bijan, the 8th overall pick, had 10 rushing yards, 10 rushes for 56 rushing yards, and he also had 6 receptions for 27 receiving yards and 1 receiving touchdown, while Kyle Pitts had 2 receptions for 44 receiving yards. Good win for the Falcons. The Baltimore, another rookie Week 1 performance, C.J. Stroud, and the Texans lose 25-9 to the Baltimore Ravens. The Texans kept this close in the first half and a little bit of the third quarter, but the Ravens pulled away in the second half. Lamar Jackson threw 17 for 22 with 170 passing yards. Sadly, J.K. Dobbins, who scored a touchdown in this game, the first score of the ball game, tore his Achilles. He's out for the season. Zay Flowers, rookie, had 9 receptions for 78 receiving yards. C.J. Stroud, what a rookie Week 1 performance for C.J. Stroud. He went 28 for 44, 242 passing yards. He also had 4 carries for 20 rushing yards. And Nico Collins had 6 receptions for 80 receiving yards. Great performance by C.J. Stroud in Week 1. Saints beat the Titans 16-15. Derek Carr, great win for the Saints in his first game for them. 23 for 33 with 305 passing yards and 1 passing touchdown. Chris Olave had himself a day, 8 receptions and 112 receiving yards. And then Ryan Tannehill threw 3 interceptions with 200 passing yards, and Derrick Henry had 63 rushing yards, while Hopkins had 65 receiving yards. The 49ers shocked the Steelers 30-7. It's not shocking the 49ers won, but it's shocking that the 49ers won by 23. Pickett throws 2 interceptions and 232 passing yards and 1 passing touchdown. And George Pickens had 36 receiving yards, while Brock Purdy threw 220 passing yards with 2 passing touchdowns. Christian McCaffrey had a monster day, 22 carries, 152 rushing yards, and 1 rushing touchdown on a 65-yard rush. The Buccaneers upset the Vikings 20-17. Kirk Cousins threw 345 passing yards with 2 passing touchdowns, but turned the ball over 3 times. If Kirk turned the ball over 3 times in a regular 12 o'clock game today, wonder what he's going to do Thursday night in a primetime game. Tampa Bay, 21 for 34 for Baker Mayfield with 175 passing yards and 2 passing touchdowns. A good day for Baker Mayfield, and he connected with Mike Evans for a touchdown, and he also had 66 receiving yards in the game. What a first start for Jordan Love in the new era for the Packers, with Jordan Love being the starter. The Packers win 38-20 against the Bears. Jordan Love, have yourself a day. 15 for 27 with 245 passing yards and 3 passing touchdowns. He also had 12 rushing yards. Romeo Doubs had 2 receiving touchdowns, and Aaron Jones was not only dominant in the receiving end, but also in the rushing end. 9 carries, 41 rushing yards, and 1 rushing touchdown. 2 receptions, 86 receiving yards, and 1 receiving touchdown. Justin Fields threw 216 with 1 passing touchdown, with 24 for 37 day, and also ran for 60 yards. The Broncos lose to the Raiders in Week 1, 17-16. Touchdown winning drive for the Raiders, and they win 17-16. Russell Wilson threw 27 for 34 with 180 passing yards with 2 passing touchdowns. Javonte Williams ran for 52. Jimmy G threw for 200 with 2 passing touchdowns. Josh Jacobs ran for 50. Jacoby Myers, who got hurt in this game, had 10 receptions for 81 receiving yards and 2 receiving touchdowns. And Devontae Adams had 6 receptions for 66 receiving yards. Probably the best game of the day, the Dolphins beat the Chargers 36-34. Justin Herbert throws 23 for 33, 228 passing yards with 1 passing touchdown. Austin Eckler and Joshua Kelly had an amazing day in the backfield for the Chargers. 16 carries for Eckler with 117 rushing yards and 1 rushing touchdown, while Joshua Kelly had 16 carries and 91 rushing yards and 1 rushing touchdown. Herbert also had a rushing touchdown. Keenan Allen had 6 receptions for 76 receiving yards, while for the Dolphins, Tua and Tyreek Hill lead a comeback and dominate in this game. Tua, most passing yards by any quarterback, and it's not even close. 28 for 45 with 466 passing yards with 3 passing touchdowns, while Tyreek Hill had the most receiving yards by any player in the NFL today, with 11 receptions, 215 receiving yards, and 2 receiving touchdowns, and that's not even close either. The Eagles beat the Patriots 25-20 in a really close game. Mac Jones had a good game. 35 for 54, 316 passing yards, and 3 passing touchdowns. Also threw a pick 6, though. Kendrick Bourne had a really good day for the Patriots. 6 receptions, 64 receiving yards, and 2 receiving touchdowns. Jalen Hurts threw for 170 with 1 passing touchdown, 22 for 33. And A.J. Brown had 7 receptions for 79 receiving yards. And their kicker had 6 field goals in this game. Rams upset the Seahawks on the road 30-13. Geno Smith struggled 16 for 26, 112 passing yards and 1 passing touchdown, and no points in the second half, while Matthew Stafford had a great game, 24 for 38 with 334 passing yards, while running backs Kyren Williams and Cam Akers had a great game. Kyren Williams had 15 carries for 52 rushing yards and 2 rushing touchdowns, while Cam Akers had 22 carries for 29 rushing yards and 1 rushing touchdown. Stafford even had 11 rushing yards to join the party. And then wide receiver Puka Nuka had, I don't even know, I mean, he was a 5th-round draft pick in the 2023 NFL draft, and he went to Brigham Young. He had 10 receptions for 119 receiving yards, while Tutu Atwell had 6 receptions for 119 receiving yards. And DK Metcalf for the Seahawks had 3 receptions for 47 receiving yards and 1 receiving touchdown. Keep in mind, the Rams without Cooper Kupp, but did have Aaron Donald. And then the final game, the Cowboys beat the Giants, destroy them 40-0, and Sunday Night Football in New York. Cowboys defense dominated, 2 interceptions, 5 forced fumbles. They only recovered 1 of them, though. 7 sacks, 10 tackles for loss, 2 touchdowns for the defense today. Unbelievable day for this Dallas Cowboys defense. Dak Prescott throws 13 for 24 with 143 passing yards. Tony Pollard had 14 carries for 70 rushing yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. CeeDee Lamb had 4 receptions for 77 receiving yards. While for the Giants, Daniel Jones had an awful day, 15 for 28, 104 passing yards, with 2 interceptions thrown. Daniel Jones also did run for 45 yards, but doesn't really matter. And Saquon Barkley had 51 rushing yards, and then Darren Waller in his Giants debut had 36 receiving yards and 3 receptions. So that was it for Sunday's slate of games. You guys let me know your thoughts on today's games in the comment section. That's it for the video. Hope you guys enjoyed, and peace out.